Good evening, Wetaskiwin, and welcome to another R&R News interview. Today, we have the amazing, infamous Bill Elliot here with us tonight to talk to us. We're going to have his part one tonight, which will tell us all about Bill, where he's from, what he did for a living, why he's in Wetaskiwin, and most importantly, why after, I think is it 28 years that you were on council, Bill, for Wetaskiwin, that you want to return. So that'll be answered tonight. And then part two, we're going to deal with a whole bunch more topics after the election forum comes out. We will be posting all of the part two videos. Anyways, welcome, Bill, to our interview today. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, Scott, and thank you for doing this. I much appreciate it.
You're very, very welcome. Are you enjoying the nice fall weather we're having?
I am, and I really hope our farmers have got all their crops off the fields.
Yeah, no kidding. That's true. All right, well, I'm sure that most Wetaskiwinites know who you are, but there's probably a very small percentage that don't know who you are, and also there's probably a lot of people who don't really know much about Bill Elliot as far as, you know, your history, like when you came to Wetaskiwin, what you did, you know, before you were to Wetaskiwin, if you've been here your whole life, like I have no idea. All I really know is that you were our mayor and our council for 28 years, a few years back. So I'll let you go ahead. Where are you from? What brought you to Wetaskiwin? Start with there.
Well, thank you. Well, at my age, it's going to take a long time. So anyway, I was born in Lethbridge, and then my dad was a coal miner, so we went from mining town to mining town, and after Drumheller, we moved to Edmonton. And so my dad was a coal miner, and my mother was, her dad came here from Italy, and he was also a coal miner. And my mom and dad met in a little town outside of Jasper. So I grew up in Edmonton, went to high school in Edmonton, and went to university in Edmonton, got a physical education degree and a professional diploma. So I went to university for 5 years in Edmonton. And then my wife and 3 kids moved to Wetaskiwin in 1972. By the way, just as an aside, did you know that today is the day that Paul Henderson scored the goal for Canada to beat Russia in the 1972 Russia versus Canada World Series?
I didn't know that.
Anyway, no. Anyway, I saw it. You weren't even born. So
No.
Anyway. But yes, so we moved here, and I was the first one in my class to have a job. I came to Queenie, and I was a guidance counselor and a teacher at Queen Elizabeth School. And then after 7 years of that, then I moved on to Centennial School. So I've been here since 1972, 49 years, and this is my community. This is my home. I was going to be here for 2 weeks. Or for 2 years, I'm sorry. I got my permanent certificate and then moved back to Edmonton, and it didn't happen. We raised our children here, and my son Don has the coach's source for sports here, so he stayed here with his 3 kids and wife, and so I've really enjoyed being in Wetaskiwin.
Great. Awesome. Well, that was an awesome response. I had no idea of any of that, except for the school teacher part. I did know you did that. So,
and I was a principal for 9 years as well at Centennial. So.
Right. What year were you first on council as a council person, and then what year did you actually retire from council?
I started in 1986, and I took 3 years off in 1992. For 3 years because I became the principal at Centennial School, and I didn't want the two interfering. And then I ran again, and I finished as the mayor in 2017. So
right. Well, we'll ask you why you wanted to come back in just a second. But before we do that, what sort of hobbies do you have, Bill? What do you do in your free time? What's Bill like to do?
Well, I have we have 6 grandchildren and 3 great grandchildren, and one little gal and one grandson in Wetaskiwin are playing hockey, so that's part of what I do. And then try to be with the grandkids. I really like to read. I read a lot. I didn't get a chance to do a lot of that kind of reading when I was working, so I get to do a little bit more of that. And we have a fifth wheel trailer, and I like to travel and just go around Alberta.
Nice. Awesome. You mentioned your work background. You mentioned your school background. So we're going to skip over those questions because you've answered them. But let's talk about any committees or volunteer stuff that you've done. I know that there's a pile, but maybe let's just talk about what you're currently involved with in Wetaskiwin or out of Wetaskiwin, or anything that you're really proud of or had your name on that you wanted to tell us about.
Okay, thank you. By the way, with education, when I was 39 years old, I went to Victoria for 3 summers and got a master's degree in education administration as well, which helped me both in my job and as a counselor. The committees on which I now serve, there are a few of them, and I want to reiterate that I do not get paid for these committees. These are all volunteer committees, so it's not some senior citizen trying to supplement his pension. So I do chair the board of directors at Horizons. I chair the Wetaskiwin Diversity and Inclusion Task Force. I'm vice chair of the Yellowhead Regional Library Executive, and I'm also the city rep on the Yellowhead Regional Library. I'm secretary for the Wetaskiwin Health Foundation and for our local condo association as well. And then I'm a board member at the Boys and Girls Club and the library, and on the operations committee at Canada's Aviation Hall of Fame. I'm on the regional task force workforce for Northwest College, and I'm on the outside review board for Corrections Canada. And in addition to that, Scott, I'm an honorary witness for the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. When they were in Edmonton, I got appointed as an honorary witness. So there are 60 of us in Canada who are charged with advocating on behalf of residential school survivors, and reconciliation. And that's a lifelong commitment that we all made. Wow. So that's what I do to keep me busy right now.
Crazy. That's a ton, Bill.
I haven't been sitting idle. My basic philosophy is you give back to your community and try to leave the world a better place when you're gone. So
right.
What I tried to live by.
That's a great philosophy, Bill. I appreciate that. I commend that. It's awesome. Wow. So if you get to be a counselor again, do you sit on them as both a counselor as well as the position you have, or do you have to add a whole bunch of more committees onto the committees that you're already on?
I will see what happens. If I will take, obviously, the city council committees will take priority in most cases. If I'm too busy, it becomes too onerous, then I will have to give up some of my outside volunteer activities. But right now, my schedule is working pretty well, and somehow my time is being spent efficiently. Don't ask me how, because I'm not always that punctual, but I will keep trying to do that to meet all my commitments of city council.
Awesome. So I was flabbergasted, not because I was not expecting it, but seeing your name come up on the last day like that, I was like, wait, is this the same Bill Elliot that Wetaskiwin had on council for 28 years? I'm like, I thought he actually retired from it to give the younger people some more chances. I'm just quoting you from the reasons you gave when you retired. I read your article to the Pipestone before our interview today. So tell everybody what Wetaskiwin wants to know. Why is Bill Elliot running again for council?
Regarding the younger, I said that Wetaskiwin required a younger face as a mayor.
True. For mayor, that's right. You're right.
They didn't need the old gray mayor anymore. So
that's true.
So that's why I saw our community becoming divided. I see losing its pride, and we need to have people talking positively about Wetaskiwin. We want to get people are talking about lowering taxes all the time. Well, if you want taxes lowered, you have to have taxpayers and you have to have businesses. And if we're talking negatively about our community all the time, people aren't going to invest in our community. And if you picked up a local newspaper and read about what was happening over the last 6 months, I'm not sure if somebody would want to come here and invest. So we have to be proud of where we live and speak highly of it. And we need people who can show up for the whole community, not just special interest groups. I really feel very strongly about that. I feel with all the different committees on which I serve right now, I've got a broad perspective of different people's opinions, and I would like to bring them back to the city. I want people to be proud of Wetaskiwin again, and turn up for events and say, wow, what a great place this is to live. And wow, I love Wetaskiwin. And because I do. And I think if you're going to live here, then you should be proud of where you live. It's like if you have a job and say, I hate my job, and you do it for 30 years. Well, how happy are you when you go home every night?
Yeah.
And I think we need to be happy when we go home and say, I live in Wetaskiwin.
You must be reading a lot of Facebook lately. I know that the Rant and Rave does a pretty good job at posting a lot of the bad stuff that Wetaskiwin has to offer. And I find that people that aren't on Rant and Rave or on the social media, they don't get exposed to so many negatives as what's on social media. But yeah, we've both been here in Wetaskiwin a long time. We've both seen the level of craziness that happened in the last few months here or time being, and definitely awesome.
Scott, I don't go on Rant and Rave.
Okay, there you go.
When I was the mayor, I went on a couple of times, and it depressed me so much and gave me a knot in my stomach, and I just said, no, I don't need that kind of stuff going on in my head all the time.
Yeah, well, that saves you a lot of work. If you want confirmation, just ask Tyler, because Tyler, I'm sure, and not necessarily with Rant and Rave, but on his page, he's been typing us up a storm. But anyways, great. That's part one, everyone. Learning all about Bill, where he's from, what he's done, what he's currently doing, and why he wants to be on council. In part two, we're going to talk about stuff like taxes, economy, city services, crime, homelessness, relationships with our neighbors, opinions on the current council's decisions, or maybe some of them, and much, much more. And that'll be released, like I said, probably in correspondence with the chamber one, just so that there's no overlap of information and people can listen to however they want after that chamber session is finished. So thank you very much, Bill, for part one of this. Don't hang up with me, because I'm just going to say goodbye and we're going to wave to the good folks, and then we're going to do part two right after. Sound good?
Yes. Thank you very much, Scott.
You're welcome. Bye, Wetaskiwin.